Hello, welcome to the Deepening Remote Learning for All session from the Brent Apple Regional Training Centre. My name is Simon Pyle. I'm the Deputy Head Teacher at Anson Primary School, an Apple Distinguished Educator and an Apple teacher. We've been working as an Apple Regional Training Centre for a number of years, working with teachers in our local community and teachers nationally and internationally to deliver courses that build skills and confidence with Apple technology, both inside and outside the classroom. As a community, the Apple Regional Training Centres really share best practices, things that they know work for them in their community, and work together to develop resources that will inspire excellence through teaching with Apple technology. So Brent Apple Regional Training Centre, you can reach out to us on Twitter at Brent RTC. You can find us through the Anson Primary School website, and you can also contact us directly via email. So if you have any questions, please do reach out to us. Now today we're going to be looking at deepening remote learning. We're going to explore some ways to create engaging content. We're going to look at the accessibility features that exist within Apple technology. We're going to look at remote learning resources and the research around it, and also share some of our experience from Anson Primary School with our remote learning, remembering that our solution works for us with our particular community. You may be able to pull elements into your work, but it isn't saying that this is the solution that will work for everyone. So the question isn't really for us, does remote learning work? As a school, we really started our technology journey back in the year 2000. And by 2006, we'd replicated the whole of the school in an online world. It meant that learning could happen beyond the classroom, and everything you could do in school, you could also do at home. This won us some national awards, and we know that from the impact that we had on the progress of children's learning, particularly in their writing and mathematics, that remote learning can work. Of course, in 2020, the world faced a pandemic that meant that remote learning was really forced to all classrooms. But the question isn't, does it work, but how do you make it work for you? And so the first question is to consider, under what conditions does remote learning work? If you're watching this with colleagues, then you could pause the video now and just have a discussion about how you feel remote learning works and the best conditions to make that happen. And if you're sitting on your own with a cup of tea and a jammy dodger, which is 2 biscuits for the price of 1, by the way, then have a little think yourself. In your teaching, how does remote learning work for you? So of course, one of the best things about so many schools engaging with remote learning is that now we have much more evidence than we had before on how it can support students to learn remotely. What is common in most of the research is that great teaching is critical. Great teaching still needs to happen remotely to engage students and to help them to learn. It's also about all those things we know about in the classroom as well. It's about building on previous learning. It's about undertaking teacher assessment and providing amazing feedback. But of course, there are challenges around that when you are distanced from your learners. So we're going to have a look later on at ways in which teacher assessment can be engaging and interactive and also automated, and how we can provide amazing feedback in different ways using Apple technology. So let's begin by looking at ways of creating engaging content using Apple technology. So of course, in order to engage our students, the students need work to do. And there are some clever tricks that we can use on iPad to be able to get resources to children. So let's imagine that we have a worksheet and we want to scan that worksheet into our learning platform. Within Files, if we click on those 3 dots at the top, we can scan documents. This basically utilizes the camera to capture the document and turn it into a digital resource. Once it's captured, you can then save that resource and it will drop into your iCloud Drive. If you then click and hold on that document, you get a whole list of options. We're obviously going to rename this because we don't want our students just to see a title scanned document. we need them to know what that document does when they click on it. So this is for labeling parts of a flower. Now we're also going to move that into a school folder, so we keep all of our files nice and neat and tidy. And then of course, once we go into the school folder, we can again click on that document and hold, and we've got a choice of how we share that document. We could share it with our learning platform into a cloud storage solution, or we could even mail it to colleagues for them to use. So that's how you scan a document on iPad using files. This, of course, will work for any document that is on paper or any drawing that you may have done. It will also work for children's work so that they can scan their work from paper into your learning platform, which will often take away that blurred photograph that they might be taking when they hover over a piece of work that they've written out. So it's a really useful tool for teachers, but also for students as well. Now, one of my favorite tools to use is to make interactive keynote presentations. Here we're looking at one that's about deserts, and we can see that we can add in photographs, videos, we can add in from our camera, we can create image galleries. But one of the things that's really useful is to be able to record a voiceover. So by adding in a record audio, we're able to maybe give children and students a really accurate description of what we want them to do. This is really useful because there is nothing more lonely than remote learning and being detached from your teacher. Hearing your teacher's voice explaining tasks and dropping that into presentations that you can then watch just puts you that touch closer to your teacher. In this example, we can add in an audio where we're asking students to be able to sort and separate the diurnal or nocturnal animals by clicking and dragging them into groups. Again, just clicking add and record audio allows you to put something interactive for your students to be able to engage with, and it's coming directly from you and it's much more personalized. Now, Clips is wonderful as a video creation tool, and particularly that now it's in widescreen as well, you can capture an awful lot on your camera. As you record your video, it will create content with subtitles so your students can see the content, hear the content, and read along with you. It makes for much more engaging video content. And of course, you can create your own screen recordings too. Just by pulling down to reveal the control center, you can hit on the screen recording button. If you hold down the microphone, it will turn the microphone on. And so now when you're recording what's on your screen, which will give you a 3-second countdown, as you circle things and highlight using the markup tools or drawing tools, you can talk through what you're highlighting, enabling you to be able to explain concepts really easily to students. These are all quick and easy tools that you can use. And what it does is it takes your content to something that's personalized and engaging and draws your students into learning. Of course, our engaging content needs to reach all students. And so we need to make sure that we use the built-in accessibility features of iPad to be able to support them. There are so many things to explore within the accessibility features, and we could do a whole session just on these alone, including things like reducing motion. So when the apps open, there isn't that kind of dynamic shift, including using subtitles, cursors. But let's have a look at a couple that are really key. So let's have a look inside some of the settings. If we click on settings, the accessibility tab is there on the left-hand side. When we go in, we have lots of options. We're going to look at display and text size first. So clicking on that, we can make the text larger. Some children need that larger text to be able to access the curriculum. So we can set that individually on their device. Back in accessibility, let's look at spoken content, because we can make the screen speak to us. Turn on speak selection, and then we can select the voices. There are so many voices across so many languages that we can use. and some of them are enhanced. The most powerful voice within the system is Alex. It's as close as you'll get to a human voice being able to recognize content, and we'll show you that within notes. We've got a little bit of text set up in notes here, which says, "My name is Dr. Smith and I live on Smith Drive. I would like to present you with your present." Let's hear what it sounds like.
My name is Dr. Smith and I live on Smith Drive. I would like to present you with your present.
Now, obviously, there are some subtleties within the English language that you wouldn't expect a computer to usually get. Both the doctor and the drive in that first line, and present and present in the second line. But the sophistication of the software means that the speak selection tools are really powerful to use. So, how could you tailor your remote teaching and learning to support individual needs? If you're in a group, pause the video and have a discussion about students that might be in your setting who could benefit from some of these features, and take the time to play around with them as well on your device. Now, there are a whole load of remote learning resources that are accessible to you to be able to support you on your journey with remote learning, and not thinking about just pandemics, but thinking about how remote learning might be able to be pulled into all your teaching, even on a full return to schools. So you can download this book written by Apple Distinguished Schools, which capture the ideas, practices and stories which have assisted them with remote learning. There are also a series of videos designed to help educators to use built-in features of Apple products, no matter where learning happens. And they are part of the Apple Education Learning series. On top of this, there are of course remote learning resources in the Apple Books store, where you can download apps and books that are for educators and parents who are supporting students learning from home. And of course, there are Apple regional training centres across the UK and Ireland who at the moment are placing their work online, just like us, to explore the potential of Apple technology in enhancing teaching and learning. You should also look out for the Apple Communities Festival sessions. These are a series of recorded sessions from the Apple Communities Festival that took place in 2020 and was hosted by Apple professional learning provider Aspire to Be. There are some particularly relevant recorded workshops for remote learning, including evidence-informed practice, blended learning, and access abilities. You can of course access the 30 creative activities for kids and 30 more aimed at children aged 4 to 12 and giving them 30 activities that they can try, such as creating a storybook or acting things out or doodling. And Ofsted have also released their document about what's working well in remote education, a guide that's been designed to help schools and colleges deal with some of the difficulties and challenges that they face when their schools are having to access and deploy remote education. And so we come to the remote learning research. The best evidence for supporting children with home learning came from the Education Endowment Foundation. It talked about 5 key points. The first of which is about teaching quality being more important than the way it is delivered. We hear an awful lot about the argument of whether it's better to deliver live lessons or record content that can be used at any time. This is synchronous versus asynchronous approaches. The findings were that both methods were effective, and so at Anson we try to deploy a mixture of the two. Some of our learning happens live with the children being taught key concepts, working together on projects or sharing their work for their teacher or for peer feedback. But most of our learning is asynchronous with recorded content made by our teachers and utilising resources made by the Oak National Academy. There is, however, continuous feedback to all learners through the learning platform and automated systems like Kahoot and Google Forms. At all times, what we're trying to do is to build on prior knowledge to ensure progress. The second point is all about providing access to technology. We all know that a lack of technology can be a barrier to learning at this time. So we ran a survey in September 2020 in anticipation of any future lockdown. The idea was to find out what the technology needs of the community were so we could cater for them in the event of remote learning. While 99% of families could access the internet, 67% were working from shared devices and around 10% had no device at all. Since January 2021, we've helped 18% of the community to get better access to technology and access their learning as a result. We could only do that because we had the detailed results from the survey. We also knew that by launching the full solutions in September, the staff and the children had the chance to embed the tools of remote learning in their everyday practice. Giving people this chance to play with technology breeds familiarity. So how do you ensure that all pupils have access, and how do you remove the barriers to their learning? The third part of the research found that peer interaction was really important because it motivates pupils and improves outcomes. Some of the sessions at Anson are purely to connect pupils together for their well-being. The teacher almost takes a back seat as the children take the lead. But the more we enable collaboration, the better. A project we ran with the Unicorn Theatre connects children together with the development team for a new play. They work with the actors, directors, and writers of the play, and the sessions are recorded so that all the children in the school are then invited to watch them and share their ideas to add into the script, the costume, and the set design. Everyone can contribute, and we can get that across the curriculum. The fourth research area was around promoting independence. One of the ways to do this is to provide structure for the children. One of our key year groups did not engage particularly well in the first lockdown, and so this time they were engaged and targeted for daily live sessions. The sessions were there for them to have tasks set for the day and then to check in with them at regular times throughout the week to support them with their learning. We also developed resources that could be used by the whole school, providing them in computing, PE, art, music, so that they could be run with multiple children in your house. It supports parents who may have 3 or 4 children from different year groups, but can empower them to all learn at the same time, rather than juggle multiple children learning multiple different topics at the same time. The final point looks at different approaches of remote learning, because there is a wide and broad selections of tools available to educators, and each has their own benefits. It's often about picking the tools that can give you, for example, the best feedback, like Kahoot or Google Forms for us. But it's also about getting the highest engagement and giving your learners choice. Because in the worst examples of remote learning, the learning is really narrow. Children are expected to produce the same document as everyone else or learn in exactly the same way. But the best examples of remote learning allow pupils to express themselves and to choose the way they want to respond. So in these examples, the pupils will set the challenge of creating part of a journey which a character took through a park to find a pair of missing binoculars. They responded using drawing, cartoon, video, audio, and text. None of that was prompted. The work was scaffolded in terms of understanding the character and how they felt at this point of the story, but the learners then expressed themselves individually in their response. So I wonder, how can you draw out this in your learners? How can you develop this skill in your teachers? As a school that's part of the Apple Education Network, we take the best practices from the Apple community and adapt it for our school, but also share our practices to support other schools. We believe that your school vision must carry through in your remote learning. Whatever the visions and values of your school, you should attempt to pull this through into the remote world. Whatever you do in your normal school day can be replicated online. This is one way that we attempt to deepen learning, through engagement and belief in what we're doing. But what do other members of the Apple Education Network think ensures deeper learning? Well, Matt talks about giving learners the choice and focusing on outcomes rather than methods. Laura talks about ensuring equitable access, ensuring critical thinking and creativity are part of your remote learning offer. And Michael believes it can be deepened if you really focus on the importance of whole school communication at this difficult time. Now, there has been a lot covered in this session. And so what can you take forward to deepen your remote learning? And importantly, as schools begin to reopen fully, what do you want to retain from your remote learning? What can you pull into the school day that could be valuable addition to your teaching toolkit? What could you do tomorrow? What could you do in 3 months' time? And what do you see are the key tools that should still be there in 12 months' time? Thank you for watching this session. We have a number of sessions coming up at the Brent Apple Regional Training Centre, which will drill down into the ways that we use some of the core Apple apps and can be used to enhance teaching and learning, as well as exploring innovative ways to be creative in the classroom. Please do leave any questions or comments below or reach out to the team at the Brent Apple Regional Training Centre. And thank you for watching.